Taiwan, I'm Yvonne. Thanks for joining us. The Taiwan People's Party has put forward its own pick for legislative speaker. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party and the opposition Kuomintang each met with the TPP earlier this week, trying to win the party's support for their candidate. Joyce then reports on what the TPP's move means for the legislature.
我将要代表台湾民众党参选本届的立法院院长，这不只是走自己的路，更是要带领台湾社会走向公民主义的新路。
The Taiwan People's Party has stayed true to their unpredictable nature. They've just announced that they will be putting forth their own lawmaker, Vivian Huang, as their pick for legislative speaker. Now, it's safe to say people here were expecting them to endorse either the ruling DPP or the main opposition KMT's pick for the position. This comes just a day before the newly elected lawmakers are set to convene for the first time since the elections earlier this month to decide the speakership. Now, what's likely to happen with what we've learned today is that because no party has secured a majority, is that the first round of voting will likely come out to no result. This would force the chambers into a second round of voting, which can be won purely by the number of votes you get. So the party that secures the most number of votes can win. Now, the KMT has the most seats. They have 52, with the DPP having just 51, just one short of them. And so this is promising news for the KMT, who's put forward Han Kuo-yu as their pick. He's the recalled former Kaohsiung mayor and challenger to President Tsai Ing-wen in the 2020 presidential elections. So possibly some tough times ahead for the DPP's president-elect Lai Ching-te. Patrick Chen and Joyce Sun in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's military is conducting a naval exercise in southern Taiwan ahead of the Lunar New Year. The drills focus on asymmetric warfare, as our reporter Hsieh explains.
I'm here at this naval base in Taiwan's southern city of Kaohsiung, where the military is conducting a special kind of exercise as a way to boost the country's combat readiness. Now, Taiwan's military is practicing how to lay sea mines and how to deploy anti-ship and anti-air missiles as part of the country's asymmetric strategy. Those are in response to a threat like a drone or an enemy aircraft. Now, because Taiwan faces a threat from neighboring China, which has the world's largest navy and spends significantly more on defense, the military here is focusing on using smaller, more mobile and lethal weapons like those sea mines to protect its territory.
本次的操演也充分展现海军整合关键少数的作战概念，以及我陆战队支援海军作战的坚实战力。
It's asymmetric weapons like these that offer a much more cost-effective solution. One warship could cost hundreds of millions of dollars versus sea mines and these anti-ship weapons, which only cost a few thousand. Taiwan's military says that this demonstration is a way to show the public that even while the millions of people travel abroad for Lunar New Year, that Taiwan's armed forces are still on guard and protecting the country. Scott Huang and Hsieh in Kaohsiung for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Air Force will invest $25 million in facilities for its fleet of F-16 Vs. The money will go toward building a munitions depot at Zhihang Air Base in Taidong in eastern Taiwan. The country recently finished upgrading 141 F-16s to the more advanced F-16V variant. It's still waiting for a batch of 66 F-16Vs purchased from the United States in 2019. Those planes are expected to be delivered by 2026. 8 people have died from influenza in Taiwan, including a 3-year-old girl. They were among the more than 100,000 people to report flu symptoms last week. It was the highest number of cases for the same period in 3 years. Doctors say a drop in people wearing masks after years of COVID restrictions is allowing new flu viruses to spread. Taiwan is teaming up with NASA to size up and tackle its air pollution problem. John Van Trieste has this report.
3、2、1，启动！
A countdown to cleaner air. With the press of a button, officials launch a high-tech research program aimed at the country's most smog-prone region. Taiwan's far south, centered on Kaohsiung and neighboring Pingdong, is home to heavy industry and power plants. But weather and geography also bring in pollution from as far away as Southeast Asia and trap it there. Scientists want to better understand why this happens and how different weather conditions affect the region's air. And they want a 3D picture. From ground stations to drones to balloons high in the atmosphere, scholars from several institutions plan to analyze the air at different altitudes this spring. It's a project they're calling KPEX. But this is an international effort, and it's not happening in a bubble.
结合 NASA 的一个支持的一个资源，然后再加上呢，也刚好 NASA 在亚洲推动呢空底研究，那我们期望呢以后有更好的一个联系，能够呢获得呢更多更丰富的资料。
NASA's contributing complex scientific equipment to the project. The findings will complement a bigger NASA project to measure air quality across Asia. In a pre-recorded address, a NASA official in Washington explained why it needs the help of local scientists working on the ground in Taiwan, and why satellite data alone won't cut it.
While remote sensing measurements from Earth-observing satellites are important, ground-based measurements are essential to understanding the details of atmospheric transport, chemical transformations, and specific impacts on human health. Ground-based measurements also enable the validation of satellite measurements.
Analyzing Taiwan's air is about more than scientific curiosity. Taiwan's environment minister says the data will have practical uses.
我们也希望我们将来研究之后的成果能够跟国际共享，甚至在未来的气候峰会，我们可以发表这些成果，让邻近的国家可以去注意到他们的工业的发展影响到了邻近环境的空气品质的影响。
Understanding what pollutants are where and when will also help guide future environmental policy, allowing residents of Taiwan's far south to breathe easier. Kama Hsieh and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
3 Chinese dissidents stuck in Taiwan's main airport say they're seeking asylum. In November, they received temporary refugee cards in Thailand but felt unsafe there. They left on a flight traveling through Malaysia, arriving in Taoyuan airport on Tuesday. They're hoping to stay in Taiwan while seeking asylum in a third country. One says he fears arrest on charges of state subversion if he returns to China. Taiwan does not have an asylum law. Police in Sri Lanka fired tear gas and water cannons at protesters in the country's capital. An estimated 10,000 people from the main opposition party took to the streets of Colombo against higher taxes and increased electricity and fuel prices. The country is currently facing its worst economic crisis. Opposition leaders say more protests will take place across the country in the next few weeks. National elections are set to take place later this year. Disguised Israeli forces killed 3 Palestinian men in a hospital in the occupied West Bank. CCTV footage shows the soldiers dressed in doctor scrubs, women's clothing, and even holding a baby carrier as they stormed the hospital. Israeli forces say the men they killed were gunmen who were planning an attack. But hospital staff say one was receiving treatment for an injury that paralyzed his legs. Hamas claimed one of the dead as a member. The other 2 have been claimed by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad group. Humanitarian groups have criticized the raid, saying hospitals must be protected under international law. The relatives of victims of South Korea's deadly Halloween crowd crush are calling for justice. That's after the country's president blocked a new probe into the deadly incident in 2022. Rosie Greninger reports.
Outrage in the South Korean capital, Seoul, after a push for a new independent investigation into the deadly Halloween crush that killed 159 people was blocked.
진상을 규명하지 않고 덮겠다고 결정을 내렸고, 그것은 이 희생자들이 안전한 대한민국을 만들기 위한 초석이 되겠다는 이 희생자들의 마지막 바람, 의미를 짓밟는 일이라고 생각을 합니다.
On October 29, 2022, thousands of people gathered in Seoul's Itaewon neighborhood for Halloween celebrations. The narrow alleyways became packed, resulting in the deadly stampede. A special police inquiry released last year concluded police and government failure to prepare for the crowds and an inadequate response were to blame. Just over a week ago, the country's top-ranking police official was charged with negligence. but relatives and survivors have been fighting for further accountability. Those hopes quashed with President Yoon Suk-yeol vetoing the opposition-backed bill to probe the tragedy. It came just hours after the country's Prime Minister said it gave the investigation panel too much power and criticised it as politicised and potentially in breach of the Constitution.
참사로 인한 아픔이 정쟁이나 위헌의 소지를 정당화하는 수단이 될 수는 없습니다. 헌법적 가치를 수호해야 할 의무가 있는 정부로서는 이번 특별 법안을 그대로 공포해야 하는지 심사숙고할 수밖에 없습니다.
Instead, the government is offering additional financial aid for survivors and victims' relatives, a move they're calling insulting.
어떻게 진상규명의 책임은 외면하면서 돈으로 희생자와 유가족들을 이렇게 모욕할 수 있는가? 참담함을 넘어 이루 말할 수 없는 분노를 느낀다.
People have taken to the streets unsatisfied with the government's response, which the opposition party agrees has been inadequate. And despite the ruling party's efforts, survivors and families of victims feel a long way from receiving justice. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Tennis star Hsieh is going to represent Taiwan at the Paris Olympics. She qualified for the Summer Games over the weekend, making history as the first Taiwanese to win 2 Australian Open titles in the same year. Who Hsieh's partner will be in Paris is still unknown. In a Facebook post, she says she's excited to partner with a Taiwanese singles player. According to international rankings, possible candidates include Yang Ya-yi, Joan Garland, and Liang En-shuo. A government program in Taiwan is preserving fading art form by getting mentors to train up a new generation of performers. Yu Chen-lai has the story.
88-year-old Liao Chongzhi watches on as her student performs for her one last time. After 4 years of intense training, these young apprentices of Taiwan's traditional arts are graduating. It's part of a government program to preserve fading art forms, like Taiwanese opera, and train up a new generation of masters. And Liao has seen the art form and the culture around it change over the years.
一点点啊无好，伊就我来就甲你拍咯。啊，这是以前的时代嘛，大家教囡仔嘛拢用拍的嘛，吼。啊，即马呢是爱得教育，无法度。
The times have changed in many ways. In her day, Liao performed Taiwanese opera to survive. For today's students, however, they're mostly just interested in the culture. But becoming a master is still a hard-earned skill. Out of the 28 students who signed up for the program, only 13 are graduating. For Liao's apprentice Zheng Yunqian, this experience has been life-changing even off stage.
就是因为老师他比较厉害的地方是，他不只是教你学艺，还会教你修心，还会教你做人。
Zheng says she plans to travel around the country after graduation to see how other opera troupes interpret their art. For her, the training never really ends. Her perseverance also gives her teacher another reason to continue the program.
每一国都有因国家的文化，啊，这是歌戏是咱台湾国家的文化，是咱台湾土生土长的，啊，阮就出力啊来教家己尽量有学的教出来安尼。
By laying a strong foundation, a new master will one day be ready to take up her mantle. Yu Jinghuang, Luffy Li, and Yu Chen-lai for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out these divers at the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series in New Zealand. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.